Hey everyone, and welcome to the Absurd Report YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited to take the fan page in a new direction. For those of you who've been following along, thank you for your continued support. And if you're just joining us, let me quickly introduce myself and what this channel is all about. I run an Absurd Ventures fan page on X where I share thoughts, updates, and deep dives into everything Absurd Ventures. I usually write threads on X, but sometimes the information gets too overwhelming for a detailed thread analysis. So I decided to start a YouTube channel to dive deeper into the Teasers Absurd Ventures releases. Much like the page on X, this channel will be all about breaking down teasers, trailers, and doing detailed analyses of the content Absurd Ventures shares. I also plan to cover some other miscellaneous topics as well. In today's video, we're diving into Absurd Ventures' latest project, American Caper. Before we get started, you might be wondering, why an AI voiceover? Well, unlike many content creators, I don't have high-end mic equipment to make my voice sound as crisp as I'd like. That could change in the future, but for now, my videos are narrated by AI. One more thing, I don't have the luxury of time to churn out videos every few days or weekly. I work on these whenever my schedule allows, and balancing that with other commitments can be overwhelming. So I really appreciate the support. But enough rambling, let's get to the real reason you're here. Breaking down the latest details Absurd Ventures has shared about American Caper. Let's kick off the video with the first teaser, Absurd Ventures released on July 4th. In the opening panel, we see a van speeding down a highway. Thanks to an interview Laszlo and David did with Jace from the Comic Source YouTube channel, we now know the van was carjacked by 3 convicts using the van to smuggle immigrants into the country. We also learned that the driver might have been drunk, which could explain the reckless behavior. More on that soon. Moving to the second panel, we see a billboard tagged with the words "Don't California, My Verona" graffitied over the sign. More on that soon. Finally, in the third panel, we see a bison lying in the road with skid marks across the pavement. Now, there are a few possibilities for why the driver may not have seen the animal. Maybe he was intoxicated. Maybe he was arguing with one of the convicts in the van. Or perhaps he just had a grudge against wildlife. Heck, it's even possible the bison was already dead and they didn't even notice. Regardless, this crash isn't just an accident, it's the trigger for the chaos that follows. In the interview with Laszlo and the panel released on the website, we learned that one of the characters in the van is a Mexican beauty queen, who is undoubtedly one of the immigrants being smuggled. This is further hinted at by the text bubble that reads, "They don't frighten me so much." While this could mean a variety of things, it likely refers to her fear of law enforcement being on her trail and the potential of deportation. In the same panel, we also see her stepping out of a luxury sports car, suggesting she's connected to high-profile individuals. Let's dive into the second teaser, released on July 14th. It features another shot of what is now confirmed to be a moving van. On the side of the van, we can see the name Laredo Movers, along with a deer on the livery. The name Laredo, a Spanish word meaning slope or hillside, might be referring to the terrain of the area where the city is situated, or it could simply be the owner's name. We also spot another billboard tagged with the phrase, "Don't California, My Verona," graffitied over a "Welcome to Wyoming" sign. I covered this in a Twitter thread, but for those who missed it, "Don't California, My Verona" is a twist on the phrase, "Don't California, My Texas." Whoever painted over the billboard is clearly sending a message, warning against letting outside influences dilute the true character and authenticity of Verona, Wyoming. We also get a glimpse of the town's slogan in a text bubble that reads, "A fine place to live, that's our motto." This is clearly a sarcastic dig at small towns that try to market themselves as flawless and picture perfect, when in reality, they're likely concealing contradictions beneath the surface. The third teaser Absurd Ventures tweeted on July 16th confirms that Verona is the name of the fictional town in Wyoming. In this teaser, we see buzzards feeding on a dead deer in the road, with several billboards scattered around. I covered this in a Twitter thread a few weeks ago, but for those who missed it or are just tuning in, here's a quick recap. A quick Google search reveals that Verona is, in fact, a real place in Wyoming. Whether the town in the teaser is based on it or not is still unknown. The first billboard on the left advertises a lunch buffet featuring an American woman in a sexy outfit with hours listed from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Here's a fun fact for our non-US followers. Buffets during those hours are often called lunch buffets or brunch buffets in the US. A typical Wyoming buffet includes dishes like roast beef, fried chicken, mashed potatoes with gravy, baked beans, mac and cheese, cornbread, salad, steak, casseroles, and for dessert, huckleberry or apple pie. The next billboard introduces a new character, Governor Markham, with the slogan, "God bless Governor Markham," rolling up his sleeves to keep Wyoming's freedom. It paints him as a hands-on, conservative leader pushing a clear political agenda. It's still unclear how much of a role and influence he'll have in the story, but his presence is definitely felt here. After that, there's a billboard advertising Falcon Pines Resort, stating, "Lots available, open 2028, suggesting the town is on the cusp of gentrification. This is ironically juxtaposed with a dead animal on the road, implying a shift from something raw and real to something manufactured. This ties back to the graffiti billboards with the phrase, "Don't California my Verona," a warning about trading authenticity for commercialization. Laszlo mentioned in the interview that the two families in the story are unwittingly tied to a shady real estate deal involving the construction of the resort. Finally, in the background, we see billboards reading "Repent and Atone." If I had to guess, the third one likely says "Pray." From what I've researched, Wyoming typically has a strong conservative and evangelical presence, so these billboards could be carrying religious messages tied to the state's evangelical rhetoric. It's a subtle but powerful indication that faith might play a significant role in the story, especially in a place like Wyoming, where faith and community often intersect with politics and personal identity. Now, before we get into the breakdown of the trailer, let's watch it in its entirety first.
From Absurd Ventures and Dark Horse Comics comes the first appearance of a new crime fiction saga, an original comic book series from the mind of Dan Houser, the writer and creative director of Grand Theft Auto. A tale of two totally normal, completely damaged families. In a world of corrupt business, inept politics, bungling crime, self-righteous justice, and problematic leisure wear, American Caper.
The trailer kicks off with the image Absurd Ventures released on July 14th. While we've already covered most of the details, there's one crucial new element worth highlighting. The wider shot of the comic panel reveals that, at this point in the timeline, the van is just 2 miles away from Verona. Given the context, this suggests the scene could unfold over several panels, showing more escalating chaos before the van eventually crashes between the two houses. This also implies the possibility that law enforcement doesn't have a strong presence on the rural roads leading into Verona. The fact that they're only 2 miles away and made it this far suggests that law enforcement in the town might be laid back, more reactive than proactive. This would make the town even more vulnerable to the chaos the convicts bring with them. Based on my research, smaller towns in Wyoming typically have fewer resources and less frequent patrols, especially on the isolated roads just outside town. In the next shot of the trailer, we get our first glimpse of the town of Verona. The Welcome to Verona sign proudly displays the town's population of 13,567. We also again see the slogan from the teaser, "A fine place to live," plastered on the sign. We also learn from the welcome sign that the town of Verona was established in 1889. In the background, we can see aging buildings with a classic late 1800s charm. The streets are lined with family-owned mom-and-pop shops, which are typical for rural Wyoming. This image implies life moves at a slower pace. It's clear why the people behind the graffiti on the billboards warn outsiders to stay out, as it gives us a hint of the local sentiment and resistance to outside influences, especially from big businesses and liberal politics, which might be seen as a threat to the town's laid-back nature and traditional way of life. As someone who is from a small town, I can totally relate to this. The next shot in the trailer shows a scene from a previous teaser. After analyzing the image, there appears to be nothing new in the panel to break down, so we will move on to the next shot. This next shot in the trailer is particularly intriguing as it may connect to an earlier teaser on the Absurd Ventures website. More on that in a moment. This shot showcases a dark Wyoming mountain range with snow-capped mountains. This scene is personally giving off strong Red Dead Redemption 2 vibes, as the starry skies in the teaser remind me of the beautiful and scenic starry nightfalls in Red Dead Redemption. Based on my research, Wyoming's wilderness is remote and untamed, making it the perfect setting for something sinister to unfold in the isolated woods. As for the connection to the teasers on the site, this scene from the trailer looks very similar to a teaser Absurd Ventures released some time ago. This could have possibly been an early hint for American Caper before its delay, potentially hinting at this very scene in the comic book. Of course, this is pure speculation on my end, as many of the teasers on the site are cryptic, and not all may relate to the same projects Absurd Ventures is working on. I plan to do a future video covering more of these teasers in the near future, so stay tuned for that. The next series of shots in the trailer paints a vivid picture of the aftermath of the crash, which has torn through the boundary between the two family homes. In the foreground, we see the Verona Police Crime Scene Unit and 2 patrol units parked on the curbside. An officer stands guard at the perimeter behind some barricades, while a group of detectives actively comb the wreckage, trying to piece together what happened. The tire marks from the van are visible, cutting deep through Mr. Sharmer's yard and obliterating the picket fence that separates the 2 houses. To the left, we see Mr. Charmer and his family standing outside their home. Their expressions are a mix of confusion and distress. To the right, we get our first look at the Hamilton home, where the tree the convicts crashed into has fallen onto the roof of the home. It's unclear at this time if the tree caused any major damage to the roof, but it certainly adds to the chaos of the scene. Based on my research, the vast rural expanse of Wyoming is known for slow police response times due to the distances between homes and stations, so it makes sense that the officers might have arrived late on the scene. In this shot, we get a clearer view of the Hamiltons' home. It's a modest, rural-style house with signs of age, adding to the simple, lived-in feel of the home, which blends into the rural Wyoming landscape. On the lawn, we see an officer questioning Mr. Hamilton. More on him in a bit. Mr. Hamilton is likely giving a statement to the officer about the crash and is probably explaining the damage. Let's hope Mr. Hamilton is associated with a good insurance company. This next shot offers a more in-depth look at the Charmers' home. It seems to be a very spacious, 2-story home with a traditional design, typical for suburban or rural areas. It features what was once a well-maintained lawn. We also get a closer look at the Charmer family. We see Mr. and Mrs. Charmer, along with 6 children of varying ages, casually dressed with backpacks and holding various items. This confirms that the crash took place early in the morning as the family was gearing up to start their day. We also get a closer look at the crime scene unit, where we see 2 officers holding an unidentified object. This could be a key clue the convicts left behind at the scene of the crash. In this next shot of the trailer, we get a glimpse into the chaotic lifestyle of Mr. Hamilton. Thanks to one of the comic panels that Absurd Ventures released on the website, we learned that Mr. Hamilton is a lawyer, a family man, and a success story, though that may be slightly exaggerated. Maybe he's unlucky in love, and his success comes more from his luck at the casino than his legal prowess. Or perhaps he really is a great lawyer, but his personal life tells a different story. What really stands out, though, is that Mr. Hamilton himself admits to being a sellout. This adds a whole new layer to his character. As a lawyer, being a sellout could mean he sacrificed his integrity and the principles of upholding the law for personal gain. Maybe he's taken bribes, cut corners on cases, or even allowed corrupt individuals to walk free in exchange for money or power. This would explain his willingness to embrace the high-stakes lifestyle, as his moral compass is already compromised. Now, let's break down the next shot. On the left side of the panel, we see him at the casino bar, getting loaded while chowing down on chicken wings. For all you non-drinkers, eating on a full stomach can help absorb alcohol and maybe slow down its effects, but it really depends on the person. On the right-hand side, we see him in a slumped, messy state at the craps table. This could hint at one of two scenarios. Either he's passed out from drinking too much, or he's depressed after losing all his money in the casino. As we move through the panels, we see a blown-up, exaggerated shot of his face with poker chips stuffed into his mouth. The chips are a clear sign of his escalating addiction. His glazed, spiraling eyes could imply his sensory overload from the typical casino atmosphere. Flashing lights, the intoxicating sounds of winning and losing, glasses clinking, and the adrenaline rush of high-stakes games. It all comes together to show the husband's spiraling addiction. On the right side, we see him in a poker game, being served drinks by a waitress. This moment could add another layer to his character, hinting that he may have some relationship with the woman serving him drinks as he seeks validation or some kind of thrill outside the game, feeding into his deeper need for attention and excitement. To the far left of the panel, the scene shows a crowd gathered around the craps table. For those who don't gamble, it's typical in casinos for large crowds to gather when someone is on a hot streak. This again implies that Mr. Hamilton might be more lucky in cards, and his success could also be contributed to his winnings. It suggests that his ability to come out on top in both gambling and life may not be entirely based on skill or hard work, but rather a string of lucky breaks that feed into his self-perception of success. In the next scene of the trailer, we get a look at both the Hamiltons and Charmers posing for Christmas cards. These two cards highlight the contrast between the two families. This also confirms that the comic book will possibly take place across different seasons. Those who played Bully might recall that the story also had chapters spanning across multiple seasons. Now, let's dive into the breakdown of the scene. Let's start with the Hamiltons card. The card reads, "Ho ho ho," and "Merry Christmas," showing the family gathered together around the Christmas tree. Mr. Hamilton and his wife are with their two kids, one son, addicted to video games, and a daughter who embodies a blue-pilled mentality with her stereotypical left-wing hairstyle. In the interview with Laszlo, we also learned that the housewife has been red-pilled. More on her later. This also explains why she's sporting military attire in the photo. The card's irony is clear, especially given their family's underlying dysfunction. Next, let's take a look at the Charmers Christmas card. The card likely reads, "We count our blessings, and one of them is you," a more traditional holiday greeting. The card features Mr. and Mrs. Charmer with their 6 kids, all smiling and dressed in matching holiday outfits. The Charmers, confirmed by Laszlo to be Mormon, are meant to represent that picture-perfect family ideal. But beneath this picture-perfect exterior lies something more sinister. Funny enough, this isn't the first time we've seen the two families wish us a Merry Christmas. Back on December 16th and 17th of last year, Absurd Ventures released 2 teasers that properly introduced us to the two families. What was initially thought to be a Christmas teaser now has proper context, confirming that the story will take place during the holiday season. While we're on the topic of past teasers, this isn't the first time we've seen the daughter and mother of the Hamilton family. During Thanksgiving of last year, Absurd Ventures released a teaser showing the two at what appears to be a family gathering or holiday dinner. In the scene, the mother is trying to bring some positivity to the table, attempting to keep the mood light, while the daughter looks visibly angry and out of place. It's clear she doesn't want to be there, and her frustration is evident, highlighting the growing tension between the two. Also, on November 4th of last year, Absurd Ventures teased American Caper for the first time. What initially seemed like 2 random women caught in a political debate has now been confirmed to be the daughter and mother from the Hamilton family. Thanks to the info given by Laszlo, we now know the depth of their relationship, especially in light of the daughter's growing animosity toward her mother for switching sides. As often happens when someone shifts their political stance, particularly from left to right, it can stir feelings of betrayal, frustration, and confusion. In the image, we see the daughter, clearly frustrated, telling her mother, "Not taking sides is taking sides," a powerful line that reflects her internal conflict. They are also featured on one of the cover variants from the comic book, illustrated by Joe Quinones. The cover shows the two arguing over political discourse. This cover hits for me in particular, as I too am a fan of political discourse. We'll break down this cover in greater detail later in the video. In this next scene, we see Mr. Charmer gearing up to possibly go on a quote-unquote business trip, as he seems like the type of person who lives that kind of lifestyle on the surface. We see one of his kids hugging him, and his daughter tugging at his arm for attention. Mrs. Charmer is also present amidst the hectic energy of the household. There's a sense of both love and tension in this scene, with his kids expressing a mix of concern, one showing mischief, while another seems to be wishing his dad a safe trip. It's a scene that feels both chaotic and heartwarming, the kind of moment every parent can relate to when they're trying to juggle family life with other responsibilities. But if only his wife and kids knew the true reality of his nature. As the interview with Laszlo confirms, Mr. Charmer is secretly a murderer. Thanks to a panel of Absurd Ventures released on the website, we get a small glimpse into his devious lifestyle. In this panel, he's depicted holding a shovel with crazy psychotic eyes while saying, "I've killed 6 people. I think you'll agree they all deserve to die." What's interesting is that, on the website, he's described as a Mormon hitman, not a traditional serial killer. This raises the question of where he gets his contracts to kill from and whether he's tied to any organization. Or perhaps he manifests these hits himself, posing as a hitman, but really being a serial killer. While we're on the topic of this panel, we also see him featured on one of the covers for the comic book. On the cover, he's again holding a shovel, and his character is illustrated behind the mountain ranges we saw earlier in the trailer. This confirms my theory that he likely uses the mountains of Wyoming to carry out his sinister deeds and possibly hide the bodies. Now, about the shovel Mr. Charmer is holding. It seems to be connected to some earlier teasers Absurd Ventures released when the website first launched. In the initial teaser trailer, a group of people is sitting at a table, and the camera zooms in on a piece of paper that contains an image of the shovel. It's interesting that the website now features a panel showcasing the shovel as well. But it doesn't stop there. In the initial teaser, we also see a man with a shovel in the woods, carrying a bag and the shovel. Could this teaser be a real-life shot of Mr. Charmer carrying out his deed? And what other connections does this teaser have to Absurd Ventures' other projects? I plan to do another video in the future breaking more of this down. But for now, let's continue the breakdown, shall we? The next scene gives us a look into the Hamilton household. Here, we see Mr. Hamilton and his red-pilled wife arguing. It's possible she's chewing him out for spending yet another night at the casino, or maybe it's about something else entirely. Mr. Hamilton is seen holding a cup of coffee, which, like most adults, he likely needs either to wake up and face the day or to recover from a head-pounding hangover from his late-night casino run. Meanwhile, their son is zoned out, completely absorbed in his video game on the couch, earphones in. As is often the case with teens, being immersed in the game serves as both an escape from reality and a way to drown out the chaos around him. It's likely he's doing both, tuning out his parents arguing and retreating further into his own world. The next shot takes us into the son's fantasy world, where we see him living out an epic adventure. Surrounded by girls and feeling on top of the world, he's slaying giants, standing tall in the face of danger, and even saving the day from a terrorist attack. This whole scene gives us a clear view of the son's ultimate power fantasy, straight out of a high-energy video game. In this world, he's the hero, the one everyone looks up to, the center of attention. But then the illusion shatters as the camera pans down, bringing us back to the dull reality of the Hamilton household. We see Mr. Hamilton casually stringing up Christmas lights on the family tree, completely unaware of the adventure his son just imagined. Mr. Hamilton is trying to make the holiday feel real and meaningful, but the son, lost in his game, is nowhere near that moment. We get the sense that the son seeks validation and attention in his digital world, especially if his father isn't giving him the attention he craves. This gives us a clear view of the emotional divide between the two. The son trapped in his escape, craving acknowledgement in his fantasy, while Mr. Hamilton is grounded in the struggle of daily life, likely unsure how to reach his son. The distance is palpable. Moving on, the next scene in the trailer centers on a man whose identity and role are unclear for now. However, we can take a closer look at the scene behind him, particularly on the left side, where there's a poster featuring Joseph Smith. For a quick breakdown, Joseph Smith was the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS. He claimed to be chosen by God to restore the true Christian faith, which he argued had been lost after the death of the apostles. His work laid the foundation for Mormonism, which began in New York in the early 1800s and eventually spread westward to Utah. The quote on the poster most likely reads, "I was informed that I was chosen to be an instrument in the hands of God," emphasizing Smith's self-proclaimed divine purpose. Given that the Chalmers family is confirmed to be Mormon, it's possible this man has ties to them or their beliefs. Additionally, in the background, we spot Aaron Old's development on a map, hinting at another potential real estate project aimed at gentrifying Verona. This suggests more outside influence on the town, continuing to build on the themes of change and tension between the old and new. Moving swiftly along, the next scene in the trailer shows a group of men having a business meeting. Right at the forefront, we see one man clutching his chest, clearly in the midst of a heart attack. But the men around him remain unfazed, absorbed in their conversation as if nothing's happening. This reflects the cold, indifferent nature of the corporate world, where emotions have no place and the life of a fellow man is secondary to business deals. Also, while writing this, a theory crossed my mind. What if this is Mr. Chalmers' doing? As a hitman, it's possible these businessmen hired him to take care of this problem discreetly. The timing and the other's indifference suggests this could be a planned hit. Whether it's a calculated move or just the brutal reality of survival in the corporate world, Dan is showing us how expendable people become in the pursuit of power. In this world, only the fittest survive. The next scene in the trailer shows a military general shouting at someone on the phone with the word Chancery emblazoned on his chest. In military terms, Chancery refers to the principal office of a foreign mission, like an embassy, usually tied to diplomatic work. This aligns well with his character, as it would make sense for him to have connections to various political affairs. On the table before him, there's a bottle labeled Americ Burbo, a fictional brand within the universe, which implies the general might be turning to alcohol to cope with his emotions, hinting at a troubled or frustrated state. In the background, we notice a flag, which could suggest he's at a golf course or resort. With not much more to interpret from this scene, let's move on to the next one. In the next scene, we're transported to a room, exuding a distinctly seedy atmosphere. This could possibly be a strip club or a dimly lit motel room. We see a woman with curly hair dominating the frame, her arms raised high as she spills whiskey in a wild, heated moment. She's dressed in a sexy, patterned top and fishnet stockings, fully immersed in a moment of intense passion. The man below her gazes up with excitement and pleasure, clearly caught up in the experience. To his right, another man waves a cigar and holds a bottle of whiskey, making it clear he's thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. The lighting in the room casts a soft glow, obscuring exact hair colors, but the man's distinctive eyes, hairstyle, and facial structure leave no doubt. He is unmistakably Mr. Charmer. It's going to be really interesting to see what other shenanigans Mr. Charmer gets up to in the storyline of the comic. As for the other two characters, we don't know who they are or how much of a role they will play in the overall story. That said, let's move on to the next sequence of events in the trailer. Since we already know the fate of the van, these next few scenes we're going to gloss over quickly, only covering the new details. So let's get into it. In this first shot, we see the moving van speeding down the road while a deer watches in awe. It's still unclear which convict is driving, as the windows don't reveal any visible driver. In the next shot, the van starts losing control, and we see the right hubcap fly off, likely due to a popped tire or some other road hazard that caused it to loosen. As the van careens toward its inevitable crash, we get a brief glimpse of the Chalmers and Hamilton's houses just before impact, with a perfectly intact fence in view. The van's license plates are also visible, confirming that the van is from Arizona. For those who don't know, Arizona borders Wyoming, suggesting that parts of the story may involve Arizona, whether in flashbacks or ongoing events. In the final shot of this sequence, the van smashes into the tree positioned between the two families' homes. The crash, without a doubt, jolts the families inside. Not only did the van hit the tree, but as we already learned, the tree also falls onto the Hamiltons' rooftop. We now also see a close-up of the van and the surrounding destruction the convicts caused. We also see a whiskey bottle that flies out of the driver's side window. This further confirms that the driver and possibly the other two convicts were intoxicated. What's interesting about this picture is that the van's tires are in terrible condition, yet somehow the convicts managed to drive it away before the cops arrived on scene, since the van is absent from the investigation in the previous panels. The next shot in the trailer gives us another look at Mr. Hamilton's wife. Before we dive into the scene itself, let's quickly check out another comic panel released on Absurd Ventures' website. In the panel, we see her in the same tactical gear from the trailer, and the text reads, "Wyoming should secede." This line speaks volumes about her red-pilled mindset. While some people are content with living within the system, others like her choose to rebel against outside organizations or political forces. The term secede is often used when a region or state decides to break away from a larger political entity, a clear statement of independence. This fits perfectly with her desire to distance herself from the influence of larger political structures. It's also possible that she's connected to the same group that spray-painted "Don't California My Verona" on those billboards. That sentiment, strongly associated with people on the right, particularly in the West, rejects the encroachment of liberal politics and big business. It's a theme that ties seamlessly into the comic, and this connection could reveal a lot about her affiliations and her role in the bigger picture. Now let's dive into the shot breakdown from the trailer. In this scene, we see Mrs. Hamilton dressed in full tactical military gear, camouflage uniform, gloves, large protective goggles, and earmuffs. She's gripping an assault rifle, and her posture and aim suggests she's no rookie. This is a woman who's clearly put in the hours, possibly even using the rifle as a form of therapy to cope with the turmoil in her broken family. In the background, there's an older man with his weapon aimed in the same direction. He could be an associate of the organization she's involved with, a random guy at the range, or even her trainer. This setting implies they're likely at a shooting range. As the scene continues, it becomes clear that she's not just firing at a target. The target is none other than her husband. As we've learned, their relationship is strained with constant arguments. He spends his days gambling, neglecting her, and most likely cheating with women he picks up at the casino. It's clear this isn't just a training exercise for her. It's a violent fantasy of what she truly wants to do with him. The woman isn't just imagining shooting at a target. She seems to be channeling her anger and frustration. To her, the weapon isn't just a tool or a right. It's a symbol of her power, a twisted form of control. It's her outlet to unleash the chaos inside, a way to mentally exact revenge without crossing the line into actual harm. Finally, let's break down the last scene of the trailer. The interview with Laszlo confirms this character is Marty. But before we dive into the details of the shot from the trailer, let's take a look at another panel released on the Absurd Ventures website. In this panel, Marty appears to be a short guy packing a six-pack. He is sporting a white cowboy hat, wearing a towel around his waistline, and rocking his cowboy boots. In the panel, he's seen talking to two women, asking if they have anything to clean up the sticky stuff. Now, we can all guess what he's referring to. It's definitely not syrup or Cinnabon icing, that's for sure. At first glance, Marty might seem like your typical straight male, but this scene from the trailer raises some interesting questions about his sexuality. In the scene from the trailer, Marty's attire is what's considered problematic leisure wear. He's dressed in a sleeveless black vest with ornate patterns, a cowboy hat, and is holding a penis pump in one hand, implying he's likely insecure about the package God gave him and an alcoholic beverage in the other. This creates an image of dominance and physicality, leaning into hypermasculine ideals. But this choice of attire might not sit well with everyone, especially those who reinforce narrow traditional gender expectations, where men are expected to be tough, dominant, and devoid of vulnerability. In a more conservative, red state like Wyoming, this may be off-putting to certain audiences. In other words, Marty might be gay or bisexual, as hinted by a character on a swing set in the background of the scene. Marty could well be at a gay bar, a club, or just a place that embraces all sexualities. The contrast between Marty's exaggerated masculinity and this more inclusive, free-spirited environment could highlight the tension between traditional gender norms. Thanks to the interview with Laszlo, we also know a lot about Marty's backstory. He's introduced as a wealthy Wall Street hedge fund guy who buys up massive ranches in Wyoming. But instead of truly embracing the cowboy life, he's just playing at it. He's obsessed with maintaining his youth, using HGH, human growth hormones, to stave off aging, and acts out a fantasy of being a tough, rugged cowboy while remaining deeply entrenched in the world of finance. Marty is a satirical take on the wealthy elites who try to live out these fantasies of rugged Americana, all while being completely out of touch with the reality of it. As Laszlo mentioned in the interview, both he and Dan find these types of characters fascinating. They're particularly interested in wealthy individuals who try to embody a lifestyle they don't truly understand. Marty is a perfect example of this, a character who is part of a broader satirical commentary on rich, entitled people living in a bubble and trying to escape their reality in increasingly absurd ways. Now, before we analyze the remainder of the cover artworks, let's take a closer look at one more panel released by Absurd Ventures on their website. The identity of the character in this panel is unknown at this time, as the close-up shot makes it unclear who he really is. However, according to the description beneath the panel, this character is considered a maniac hell-bent on revenge. In the panel, we see him saying, "Hello, Madeline. Been a while." This line implies that Madeline is the woman he is so consumed with seeking revenge on, and that's all we really have to go on for now. Since we already covered cover A at the start of the video, let's dive into cover B, illustrated by Simon Bisley. Of all 5 covers, this one stands out as the most detailed and dynamic, pulling us deeper into the chaotic world of the Hamilton family. I won't go over the obvious details, but let's hit a few key points. At the center, we see Mr. Hamilton, sweating, anxious, and clearly overwhelmed. Behind him, his red-pilled wife is yelling at someone on her tablet, while their left-wing daughter stands just behind her. Over to the side, Mr. Hamilton's son is fully immersed in his video game. A detail I almost forgot to mention earlier is that the Hamiltons appear to have a dog, which was shown in last year's Christmas teaser. It totally slipped my mind while writing this. The top part of the cover introduces more characters who could either be major players or just background elements. It's unclear if they'll have a significant role in the story or if they're simply there for stylistic effect. The background is packed with details that reflect a broken society. If you look closely, you'll spot elements that speak to Wyoming's unique personality. We see what could be the military general we saw earlier in the trailer, along with 2 cowboys, one in traditional cowboy attire and the other with a top hat and a beard. We also see a woman with makeup and blonde hair. Either way, this cover does an excellent job of capturing the family dynamic, setting the tone for Mr. Hamilton's story, and leaving us questioning the roles of these other characters and what themes may unfold. Cover C, illustrated by Martin Simmons, gives us another look at Marty in the same outfit he wore in the teaser, only this time with sunglasses. In his hands, Marty holds what appears to be fat-burning sugar, which is clearly cocaine or possibly another stimulant. On his right shoulder, we see a rat. The rat could be a metaphor for his character. Below him, more rats are seen in the pile of drugs, with another fake brand called xylocerin, advertised as a fat-burning sugar. There's not much more to say about this cover, so let's move on to the next one. Now let's move on to cover D, illustrated by Joe Quinones. Here we see the daughter on the left-hand side of the cover, once again sporting her left-wing hairstyle. She's holding books with titles that scream progressive literature and ideologies. Some of the book titles include Spotting Racism, Micro-Threats, and Equity. I find it clever that she's positioned on the left side of the table, reinforcing her leftist views. It's a nice touch of subtle humor. On the right, we have an overweight version of the red pill housewife, arguing her right-wing politics with her daughter. I believe Joe's choice to depict Mrs. Hamilton as heavier in this cover is a commentary on the poor American diet, which is hinted at by the soda cans scattered across the table. It's no secret that Americans consume excessive amounts of sugar, and this visual speaks volumes. We also see a pistol on the table, which is another symbol of her red-pilled nature, emphasizing her conservative ideology. The presence of the pistol in this scene speaks to the divide between the two characters and the tension inherent in their conflicting views. Below them, we find a chubby dog with a half-eaten donut in front of it. This image is a commentary on how many Americans abuse their pets, feeding them junk food that's clearly not good for them. It's a cheeky jab at American society's unhealthy relationship with food, not just for people, but for animals as well. This cover is a great depiction of modern America, showcasing the contrast between progressive and conservative viewpoints, all while giving a humorous commentary on the culture surrounding diet and lifestyle. Finally, let's look at cover E, illustrated by Marguerite Sauvage. It features Mrs. Hamilton with her husband, Mr. Hamilton. Mrs. Hamilton is holding a revolver, while Mr. Hamilton stands next to her dressed in casual attire, holding a hand of playing cards. The revolver and the cards symbolize both of their lifestyles, one of danger and calculated risk. To the left, we see Marty holding a needle, likely filled with the hormones he regularly injects to maintain his youthful appearance. Under Marty, there are two maids. We don't know yet if they'll play a role in the story, but their presence adds some mystery. In the background, we see Mr. Charmler holding a shovel, positioned against the Wyoming mountain range. As I theorized before, this could be foreshadowing where he carries out his deeds, suggesting something grim hidden in those remote mountains. And that's it. That's all we have for this breakdown. That's going to wrap up today's breakdown of American Keeper. I hope you enjoyed the dive into the story and the characters. If you're as hyped for this project as I am, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to The Absurd Report for more updates and deep dives. Also, shout out to all the fans following the Absurd Ventures fan page. Your support means a lot. Let me know your thoughts on American Caper in the comments, and feel free to join the conversation over on our fan page. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.